lesson from the Gospel according to Mark, beginning at chapter 2, verse 23. Listen for the word of the Lord. One Sabbath, he, that is Jesus, was going through the grain fields, and as they, that is the disciples, made their way, the disciples began to pluck heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing that? It's not lawful on the Sabbath." And Jesus said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need of food? He entered the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat, and he gave some to his companions." And then Jesus said to them, "The Sabbath is made for humankind, and not humankind for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of Sabbath." Friends, hear now this passage from the Old Testament book of Leviticus. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of complete rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord throughout your settlements. Friends, here a reading from the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy. Observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall not do any work, you, your son, your daughter, your male or female slave, your ox, your donkey, any of your livestock, or the resident alien in your town, so that your male and female slave may rest as well as you. Remember that you were once a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God commanded you to keep holy the Sabbath day. Friends, this week we deal with a question. Is the Sabbath day made for humankind? Or was humankind made for the Sabbath day? It might seem like a simple question to some. It might seem like a pointless question to others, or a game of semantics, wordplay. But Jesus makes this point in Mark's Gospel in reference to a situation where his disciples are caught by Pharisees picking grain heads, picking those grains and eating them. The idea of picking or harvesting food and eating it on the Sabbath day was absolute sacrilege to the Pharisees, who were legalistic about God's commandments handed down to Moses. And it's important that they had been, that the Hebrew people had lived under the guidance of those, like the Pharisees, for centuries, who had maintained order in their community based on strict adherence to the laws handed down to Moses. But Jesus, you see, Jesus has a new way, as he does with so many things, of teaching how to live the Sabbath. Remember, once upon a time, you were slaves in the land of Egypt. No rest. You never had a day off. You never were allowed to recuperate, re-energize, refresh. Jesus interprets this to the Pharisees and to his disciples with a very simple question. Were we made for the Sabbath? Or was the Sabbath made for us? In the Leviticus passage we looked at, we hear the words, a holy convocation, that God created the Sabbath to be this time when God's creation and God's self could come together. That day of rest, holy rest, was given, a gift given to humankind, and not a law in a box that humankind has been poured into. Friends, celebrate the Sabbath because it is a gift. Enjoy God and enjoy the good gifts you have been given. And do those things for the restoring and rejuvenating and renewing of your soul. Friends, next week we will finish our Sabbath series. And I don't want to give too much away, but you don't want to miss next week's lesson.